Warning. This show features dark subjects which may be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Chaos Jar. I am the loud and obnoxious one, J. West Secord. Hey. And, as always, we're joined by our big bag of facts, Bad Ben.
Hey.
And unfortunately, we will no longer be joined by A.T. Token.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You left the cage open.
You left the cage open. It was your job, okay?
Listen,
yours.
I told you to put him on the leash, and then he ran away.
I didn't want to put him on a leash. It seemed inhumane. That's, really racist.
Fair enough. All right. So,
wherever he is, I hope he's okay.
Me too. So, house cleaning.
Yeah. That's our bit to explain everything. Don't question anymore. As usual, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BA Chaos Jar. You can also follow us on Facebook at wait, what's our Facebook?
Glad you asked.
No,
the Facebook is Chaos Jar Podcast.
Thank you. You can follow us on Facebook at Chaos Jar Podcast, which is also our YouTube channel. Join our YouTube channel. You're not great with the regular podcast setup? Go to the YouTube. Woo! And as
YouTube.
Woo! More like WooTube. Anyway. God. That was awful. You can also follow me on Twitter at I'm Glad You Asked _ where I really want you to ask me random questions. I want to answer questions. I don't care what the question is. I will answer it to every cell of my being.
Just message him with a whole whack of medical questions.
I'll answer that shit. I research it up and give sound advice.
I have this growth happening here. It could be this.
Plus, you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/chaosjar. Give us a little bit of money, and you could become one of our executive producers. Plus, you'll get early access to our bonus episodes, The Overflow. Plus, you can also see the episodes of The Overflow that have been released to the public. Go there on Patreon. So I think that's everything. All down in the show notes.
Yep.
And what's going in the jar today?
Well, today we're going to talk about Rodney Alcala. Trying to come up with a joke for this?
No, I can't. I got nothing.
I got nothing?
Like the little squid rings? Does that work?
I thought there was going to be an alpaca joke.
Have you seen my jacket?
See my vest?
Made by real alpaca chest.
Wow.
I can't say the real thing. Copyright.
Yeah. Freaking Fox will slam down so hard.
No, it's Disney now.
Oh yeah. Well, Disney owns Fox, but
yeah. Wait, what do you think I'm watching this on?
That's true.
This show is on fucking Disney Plus. Isn't that fucking weird? Sorry, it's Burn Notice with Bruce Campbell and other people and
other people, unimportant people.
yeah, and it's pretty adult content and shit, and it's on Disney Plus. Die Hard is on Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can get that in the overflow. I want to hear more about this Rodney Alcala.
All right. So we're going to start off with talking about the dating game.
Like the old TV show?
Yeah.
You were expecting a joke there.
Yeah, it really was. You were just like
yeah, like the where they got the screen and the woman asks the questions, or is it a dude and 3 women?
It can be either or.
Oh, okay.
I think, and there was like a bunch of spinoffs. We'll actually talk about a couple of the spinoffs, but the dating game first aired December 20th, 1965, and it was actually like the first of many shows that were eventually made by Chuck Barris. He made a lot of shows from the 1960s into the 80s, and then I think he just kind of became like a producer after that. They dropped the show in 1973, but then it kept going as the new dating game after that from 1973 to 1974, and then was revived again as the dating game, just the regular name.
It's funny. I feel like the dating game itself kind of just the actual thing disappeared, but I've noticed that it's still parodied nowadays.
Yeah, it's weird because like it had its first revival in like 1973, 1974, then came back in 1978 and ran all the way till 1980. Then was out again and came back in 1986 until 1989. Then was down again and then came from 1996 to 1999. Like, it just keeps going. And then in February, they reported that ABC and Sony Pictures were going to do a new one that's hosted by actress Zooey Deschanel and Michael Bolton called The Celebrity Dating Game.
What?
Yep.
You know, it's weird. I think because of those gaps, I almost feel like they're rebooting it because of like generations. Like the generation changes, so now we have to reboot it so that way we can go with the next generation, because it's something that doesn't. You couldn't like The Price is Right. You couldn't non-stop go.
Yeah. It also has something to do with like the age range that they pick people in and like all the criteria they have. It has to be somebody who's local to the area, so they only pick single people that are local in this area. They're all in a certain age group. They all have certain criteria that have to be met, and as we'll find out today, that criteria does not involve a background check.
I am very excited about this episode.
So the dating game was paired up with the Newlywed game. So
I'm familiar. That was the one. You see how well you know them, right? Yeah.
So at first it's like watching couples get together, and then afterwards it's like watching couples that have been married for a while, like for a little while, like very, very newlywed, and then seeing how well they do know each other.
I've seen some clips of like the old ones, and there'd be like really terrible, like bad answers, like what is she like? And it's like the kitchen, and then she's like, I like this thing, and it's completely different.
Yeah. What would be her ideal night? Bowling. Going out for dancing and drinks?
Yeah. You could tell relationships really were well designed then.
So in 1996, both the Newlywed game and the dating game have been revived, and they were sold together as a package called the Dating Newlywed Hour on ABC.
You know, honestly, it makes perfect sense. They just come together.
Yeah. So like the format was like we were talking about. It was like most of the time it was a bachelorette that would ask questions of 3 bachelors who were hidden from her view entirely. And then at the end of the questioning period, she would choose whomever was going to accompany her on a date, and the date was all expenses paid by the show. So you get a free date of the thing. You get to choose who you want, but you never get to see them.
Not. They probably had to pay taxes on that.
Occasionally, they would do it where it was reversed, and the man would be questioning 3 ladies. Mm-hmm. And other times, celebrities would question 3 players for dates for themselves, coworkers, and relatives. So it's funny because there's actually like a list of people that have appeared on the show, and like Will Ames, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Famous Amos, Judd Apatow in the 1980s.
Ooh. You say Judd?
Judd Apatow.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So that would be before he married. Like
no, just your pronunciation was weird. That doesn't matter. Keep going.
So like Sally Field, Jackie Fox, frig, there's just a ton of them. Phil Hartman was on in 1979. Yeah. Michael Jackson appeared here in 1972.
Please tell me Phil Hartman did not meet his wife there.
I don't believe so.
Okay, good, because then that would not be a good advertisement for the dating game.
Spoiler, there's going to be an episode on that. Right.
Yeah. I think you've told me about that.
Yeah. David Cassidy, both of the Carpenters, Karen and Richard. Yeah, there's just a whole ton of them, including a governor of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm. It's just weird. Vincent Price in 1972, Bob Saget in 1979 and 1980.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Tom Selleck.
Yep. It's so extensive. Lee Majors, Steve Martin appeared twice.
This list, it goes on like a long...
Adam West, Farrah Fawcett. Yeah, it's just a massive list.
Yeah.
And so, it would be the same format basically all over. There's a lot of little spin-off shows. We'll actually talk about some of those spin-off shows themselves, because the spin-offs that mostly came out of it that we watch, that people watch currently, are The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
I had a feeling that's where it was going.
There's also like Temptation Island, The Fifth Wheel, Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire, things like that. But basically The Bachelor and The Bachelorette dominate this whole thing, because now it's become more like reality television.
Yeah.
There was one that I actually used to watch when I was a kid, called Love Connection. And
I think I've been familiar with that.
It's where the person that was being set up, the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, would take these people on dates already and then choose whose date they liked best.
Isn't that like Blind Date?
A little bit, yeah. And then like in the more recent, around like 2006 to like about 2012 or so, MTV was doing something where they were doing it. It's called like A Shot of Love, and it was featured Tila Tequila in the first 2 seasons.
Shot of Love?
A Shot at Love.
Oh, A Shot at Love.
Yeah.
Not A Shot of Love.
Yeah. So, and then the last season was a double shot at love, but it was...
a double shot?
Yeah, it was twins that were having to pick from the same pool of people. Yeah. But these were like... They
got a double shot already.
Yeah. It's funny because I watched those, and spoiler for anybody who hasn't watched it, but in that twin one, you really think that the one twin is going to hook up with this other guy who seems to be really, really close. And then in this big twist, he ends up with the other twin in the very last episode.
It's always a big twist. I remember watching one random season of The Bachelorette I watched with my mom and brother. I know, it was the weirdest setup too. Like, I walked to the bar joke. And it was one dude who wasn't very attractive, one dude who was super attractive. And even though all signs point to the unattractive guy being the one picked, she went with the attractive guy. And then he literally... The twist is she had one little bit of information she needed to tell him before they could date. And that was she once dated Fabio. Wow. And then he left her on the beach.
I don't think there's a more Fabio way of... I mean, like...
it was just like, I once dated Fabio. The fuck? I can't believe I can't date you anymore. Like, what?
Well, these, so like the Shot at Loves or whatever were like one of the first bisexual ones. So because Tila Tequila and these twins were bisexual, there was women and men involved. So they would get to choose between either one. But one of
when did this come out?
I think A Shot at Love with Tila Tequila came out in 2006, 2007. I know that another Shot at Love with Tila Tequila was out in 2008 because I was going through my divorce at the time and was watching a lot of fucking late night TV, and this just happened to come on, and I was like, well, I'll watch this then.
And An insight to your life.
Yeah, of course, I'm all like strung out because I'm getting a divorce, and here's Tila Tequila with a bunch of people. Like, but yeah, she's a fucking mess. Like,
takes one to know one.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like, fuck. Yeah.
Boy, she was a fucking mess.
She's like a flat earther and like anti-vax and like I'll save my own judgments on like but just even her like thought on the COVID-19 situation is so weird. Like
I was more laughing at the fact that you were going through a divorce and you were strung out and she was the mess.
Yeah. Well, see, I was strung out sober, but she was strung out on other shit.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, big list of these things here. The Fifth Wheel, 12 Kara zones. Are you the one, Average Joe? One of my favorites on this is Beauty and the Geek, where they have like a supermodel who's basically picking between a bunch of geeky guys. Boy Meets Boy, which was actually the first homosexual dating show.
Homosexual.
Yeah, homosexual.
What's that Drawn Together? That's when Xander found out he was a homosexual.
Every time that somebody says homosexual, all I ever think about is the Family Guy thing. Wouldn't it be marvelous if I was a homosexual?
I think I'm so just not used to people saying the whole word anymore that it's become funny to me. A homosexual.
Yeah. So other ones on here, The Dating Game, Blind Date. There's one called Dismissed, which I'm guessing is just... I just love the idea. I've never seen this show Dismissed, so don't quote me that this is the way it is, but I just imagine them all being there and then you're dismissed! Like...
Like The Apprentice, and they just... You're fired.
Yeah, but you're dismissed. Like...
Dismissed?
Yeah.
But what? I said dismissed, good sir!
Yeah.
She's an elegant British royal.
There's Love Triangle, Matchmaker, The Match Off, Megan Wants a Millionaire.
These titles are stupid as fuck.
Yeah. Paradise Hotel, Outback Jack, Next. Again, the dismissed thing just works in my head. Next!
I like Outback Jack, because that makes me think of Brokeback Mountain. Outback Jack. I'll get you out back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
And then, of course, A Shot at Love with Tila Tequila. So... But yeah. Yeah, so these shows are still around, going really well.
It's reality television.
Yeah.
Now, let's... I'm curious, where does this bring us to our topic?
Well, let's begin the topic with The Dating Game on an episode that aired September 13th, 1978.
Okay.
We're going to meet Cheryl Bradshaw, who is a bachelorette. She is a wonderful young lady who once earned a living massaging feet, but quit when her boss suggested she work her way up.
I didn't know we were actually doing the episode. I'll be every guy.
No. I actually have a video for this.
Oh.
So we'll get to watch this video.
Now, what is this dialogue going to be played for the audience?
Yeah, we're gonna have it inserted afterwards.
Oh, okay. Sagriff, you're doing that.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to catch the reaction as we listen to this for, the sake of everybody.
From Hollywood, the dating capital of the world, it's The Dating Game. Here's the star of our show, your host, Jim Lyons.
Hey! Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And welcome to The Dating Game. And we'll get right underway. It's time to meet our first three eligible bachelors for game number one. And here they are.
So just to elaborate, we are only going to hear the interaction between Robert Alcala himself and Cheryl Bradshaw. The other guys aren't there. I will end up mentioning who one of the other people is because he's actually famous. So.
Good luck, gentlemen. Well, let's see. Bachelor number 1 is a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala.
He looks like Danny Sexbang. Ninja Sex Party.
And here she is. Here is a young lady with a wealth of experience. She once earned a living massaging feet, but she quit when her boss suggested that she work her way up. Then she taught school in Phoenix, Arizona, and now she's here to educate our three in the art of more. Welcome, if you will, sensational Cheryl Bradshaw.
She looks so awkward.
She really does.
Sit down yet. Just a minute. Want to make sure everything is straight. You relaxed? You feel okay? All right. You know there are 3 bachelors over there. There'll be 1, 2, and 3. Ask them anything you like to find out more about them, except their name, age, occupation, or income, okay? And we're going to start by having them say hello to you and see how they sound. Number 1, would you say hello to Cheryl, please?
We're going to have a great time together, Cheryl.
Oh, my God. Oh my God!
Like,
you couldn't sound any more murderer.
Yes.
If you tried.
All right. It gets better.
Bachelor number 1,
Yes.
what's your best time?
The best time is at night, nighttime,
Why do you say that?
because that's the only time there is.
The only time? What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good. Then you're really ready.
I'm a drama teacher, and I'm going to audition each of you for my private class. Bachelor number 1. You're a dirty old man. Take it.
Come on, over here. Really?
Bachelor number 1, I am serving you for dinner.
Oh.
What are you called, and what do you look like?
I'm called the banana, and I look really good.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
Peel me.
Later, Bachelor 1, later.
The first comment was the creepiest, actually.
Yeah.
And the rest of it kind of sounded pretty typical dating game.
Yeah.
Also, I was more creeped out at the fact that she overly animates her mouth. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, she does. So, this happened, and we're going to now listen to who she chooses.
Okay.
Because I guess that banana comment really stuck with her.
Cheryl, we have reached the moment of truth, as we call it. You heard from the bachelors. You got some great dramatic presentations, some good answers. But now, I'm going to ask you a question. Will that date be bachelor number 1, bachelor number 2, or bachelor number 3?
Every single one of them looks like an 80s porn star.
What I love is bachelor number 3 and his kind of like sculled back a little. Like
Yeah, everybody has like immense curly hair too,
Yeah.
and he's just like absolutely bald.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little 5 o'clock shadow.
So I'll take 1.
Number 1, bachelor number 1. All right. Well,
It's got a Charlie Manson look to him.
Oh yeah.
1 remaining. And this is your date, and I want to tell you something about him, Cheryl. He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with the 1 answer. Well, as far as I can see, Cheryl and Rodney, it looks like the two of you may be involved in some sort of racket. So we're going to have you take to the court. Oh, first, you'll receive tennis lessons from expert Naomi Besa of the famous Kirkwood Tennis Club. That starts. And you'll soon be acing everyone off the courts. And to make sure you both look as professional as you'll become, complete tennis outfits will be provided by Bill Darling's Tennis Shop. It'll really make you look like part of the racket set. Then it's off the Magic Mountain, one of America's greatest and most complete amusement parks, with plenty of excitement to challenge any daring dater, like the Revolution that'll help you turn the town upside down, and of course the world's greatest roller coaster, the Colossus. Magic Mountain, just a half an hour north of Hollywood, California. So have fun playing tennis. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Why didn't he give Rodney a kiss?
It's not Family Feud.
Let's find out what runners-up will receive today from Johnny Jacobs.
Hollywood, the dating capital of the world.
All right.
Reruns.
So, yeah, reruns. So, as we saw, Robert, they keep saying Alcala, but then other interviews come out Alcala. So, I guess it's just the Americanized.
Either that or, like, they didn't care about pronunciation on TV back then.
Yeah. So, Cheryl must have been enticed by that banana comment, I'm guessing, and the peel me.
Well, that's why he said, you won her with that one answer.
Yeah. So, like we saw, there was a long-haired 35-year-old man named Rodney Alcala who was the choice. Soon after the show, Cheryl Bradshaw approached the contestant coordinator, Ellen Metzger, saying, "Ellen, I can't go out with this guy. There's weird vibes coming off of him. He's very strange. I'm not comfortable." Ellen stated that the contestant coordination team, which is basically just her and her husband, had similar feelings about him before putting him on the show, but chose to ignore it. In an actual interview, though, Ellen stated that she didn't get those vibes off of him that her husband did. She was more focused on the fact that he was a good-looking individual and thought the ladies would love him. So Bradshaw later stated in an interview in 2012, "I started to feel ill. He was acting very creepy. I turned down his offer. I didn't want to see him again." Another person who had an ill feeling about Rodney was Bachelor number 2, actor Jed Mills. Interesting note, Jed played a fat-free yogurt shop owner on Seinfeld and Wilson Mooney on Twin Peaks.
Oh! I've seen neither of those episodes.
Well, there you go. So, he's also been in a bunch of movies as an extra and all that kind of stuff. But according to Jed, and this is a direct quote, "This creep comes up to me. He puts his face practically in my face, and he says, 'I always get the girl.'"
Oh,
wow.
Jesus.
So Rodney did not take this rejection too well. But was it founded? Who is Rodney Alcala? So, Rodney was born Rodrigo Jacques Alcala Bucor, and he was born on August 23rd, 1943, which my birthday is August 23rd.
Oh!
Weird.
Got it.
I just
so
found that
should
so
I warn Alana now?
If you can find her.
You might find some of her.
So he was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1951. His father, Raul Alcala Bucor, and his mother, Ana Maria Gutierrez, moved the family from San Antonio to Mexico. Raul later abandoned the family 3 years later, and shortly after, Anna moved Rodney and his 2 sisters to a suburban neighborhood of Los Angeles. At the time, Rodney was 11.
He didn't look Mexican.
It's weird, eh? Like,
yeah, maybe it's like the way you pass for white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in 1961, Rodney joined the Army at the ripe age of 17. This was during the Vietnam War, and he enlisted to be a paratrooper. So, that skydiving thing that came up in...
Oh! Is he one of the people who reported on the rock apes?
So, no.
I knew him quite well!
Alcala actually didn't see any action whatsoever because even though he enlisted to be a paratrooper, he spent his entire time serving as a clerk. So he didn't see any action. He was just stuck with paperwork. Like,
get down the paperwork, said Bernard.
So in 1964, Alcala actually went AWOL and hitchhiked from Fort Bragg to his mother's house after experiencing a nervous breakdown. Nobody really has the details on the nervous breakdown and what he did exactly other than hitchhike to this house. He was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder by a military psychiatrist and was medically discharged. It was actually laid on that it was a chronic and severe antisocial personality disorder. So that's a really hard one for them to put down. So for a military psychiatrist to see it and then put chronic and severe and discharge him, it must have been a really bad breakdown. Like something terrible must have happened.
Now, I'm not familiar with this one. How does it usually come up symptomatically?
So, like, I don't have all the symptoms entirely, but it's you don't really get paranoia on it, but you are more looking for like a thrill seek, and when it's not happening, you start to pull back because you feel like your life is boring and you don't have anything to offer socially. Yet it also helps you manifest like a bit of a charisma. It also brings on narcissistic tendencies. Actually, in later diagnoses from other psychiatric experts, they bring it up that he's a narcissistic personality disorder, and he's also labeled as having borderline personality disorder, malignant narcissism, and a few others like sexual sadism and so on.
So all the personality disorders, from what I'm...
Basically, really, really terrible ones.
Yeah, that's not good.
So Rodney decided to attend UCLA School of Fine Arts after this. After graduation, he headed to New York University, which was in 1968, where he studied under the Shame director Roman Polanski, who actually have an episode of his own as well because of a lot of different things that happened in his life.
Yeah, like the fall of Rome.
Yeah, Polanski.
The fall of Roman Polanski.
Because, Rome was totally run by a Polish guy.
But I bet you he was built in a day.
Yeah. It tore down in a day, that's for sure. However, Polanski did not know him by the name Rodney Alcala. Rodney had enrolled under the pseudonym of John Burgers, but with an ER. Why? Well, in 1968, just after he had graduated from UCLA, a motorist spotted 8-year-old Tally Shapiro entering Alcala's car. They were followed, the motorist followed the car and witnessed Tally get into Alcala's apartment. And then that's when they decided to phone the police, who went to check up on what was happening. The police officers arrived and knocked on the door. And a shirtless Alcala greeted the officers from the window next to the door and said he would be right with them as he was just getting dressed.
How old was the girl? Sorry.
8 years old.
Oh, Jesus.
A few moments later, the officers are not getting any response whatsoever, so they kick in the door and find Tally on the kitchen floor, barely clinging to life after being brutally raped and beaten with a steel bar. Alcala had actually managed to flee the scene through the back door, and an arrest warrant was issued. Alcala fled to New York, where he enrolled in the film school under John Berger.
John Berger.
John Berger with an ER. So, B-E-R-G-E-R.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because there already is an ER. That was a little confusing.
So in 1971, Alcala, after graduating from the film school, managed to secure a job counseling at a New Hampshire children's art camp using an incredibly creative and completely different alias of John Berger with a UR this time.
No one will ever catch me! Genius!
Oddly, in June of 1971, 23-year-old Trans World Airline flight attendant Cornelia Michelle Creeley was found raped and strangled in her Manhattan apartment. The prime suspect was her boyfriend at the time, Leon Borstein, who was an assistant district attorney for Brooklyn. Borstein eventually became chief special prosecutor for New York City. Quote, "I am now almost 71, and this occurred 40 years ago, but I am still affected by it. I was crazy about her at the time. I was devastated by her death. She was beautiful, charming, with a great sense of humor. She had the Irish eyes and the Irish hair. End quote. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean.
Green eyes and red hair.
Yeah,
I feel like those points weren't relevant, but
yeah, I just found it interesting that he said the Irish eyes and the Irish hair. So Bornstein suspected that his late girlfriend may have met her killer while moving into her new apartment. Quote, I can easily see Michelle invite someone up to help her move furniture. She was very secure. She was a very secure child in the 60s. She wouldn't think anything like this would happen to her. End quote. In 2011, the case would be solved, but it remained unsolved until then. Alcala was found out by 2 kids at the camp that recognized his photo on an FBI most wanted poster at the local post office.
You almost said Capone.
Yeah.
The Capone stuff.
The Capone office. But no, he was on the poster at the post office for the FBI's most wanted people, and these 2 kids spotted him.
It was almost a tongue twister.
I know. So Alcala was arrested and extradited back to California. However, instead of the heavier charges of rape and attempted murder, he was offered...
Attempted?
He didn't kill her. Tally survived.
Oh, okay.
He accepted a plea deal for the lesser charge of child molestation and assault. Prosecutors were reluctant to do this, but they had to because Tally Shapiro and her family had relocated to Mexico in fear, and they were refusing to allow her to testify at the trial. So without that witness and without that victim, nothing. Mm-hmm. So without the testimony, he only got those, and he had to register for the sex offender list only based on the child molestation. Alcala was paroled after 17 months. So he ran away and was convicted of child molestation and assault, but got out after 17 months in 1974 because there was a type of law program called Indeterminate Sentencing. This allowed parole boards to release offenders as soon as they showed signs of rehabilitation. So literally, you could go in one day, and if you showed that day you were better, and the parole board felt that you had remorse, out you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like that scene in Shawshank.
Yeah,
where Morgan Freeman goes in front of the group and he talks to them, and then he has to convince them that he's rehabilitated. I assume they got more strict by the time where that story takes place.
By then, yes. Less than 2 months later, after his release, on parole, he was rearrested for assaulting a 13-year-old girl, only identified as Julie J. in the court records. In the court records.
Did you say Hort?
Yeah.
The Tim Hort records.
Yeah, Tim Hort records. He had offered her a ride to school, and she accepted. He only served 2 years. So he is a child molester and has assaulted a kid before, and now he's done it again. So he's a repeat offender. 2 years, and he was paroled again due to the Indeterminate Sentencing program.
He doesn't seem to have a specific pattern.
He eventually does develop one.
Yeah, because the Tammy there, she was 23, wasn't she?
The Michelle or whatever, the woman,
yeah.
She was 23, yes.
Yeah.
And she was strangled. In 1977, Alcala's parole officer made an unusual decision, letting him travel to New York to visit relatives, despite the fact that Rodney was a repeat offender and a known flight risk. So, NYPD cold case investigators believe that within a week of arriving, Alcala killed Ellen Jane Hover, the 23-year-old daughter of Herman Hover, owner of Hollywood's nightclub Ciro's. We'll actually be visiting Ciro's again at some other point because it has a whole galaxy of celebrities and mobsters connected to it. It was in fact, it was started by Bugsy Siegel.
I actually know that name.
Yeah.
Because of Looney Tunes.
So, Ellen was also the goddaughter of the King of Cool, Dean Martin, and his fellow Rat Pack member, Sammy Davis Jr., who sang with Frank Sinatra.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
I'm not that young.
Okay, just saying. So after Hover vanished, her stepfather hired a private detective who placed ads in the New York Times to seek more information about the last man seen with her, a ponytailed photographer named John Berger. Berger.
Burger, or burger.
Yep, 3 different spellings. And they couldn't find this guy.
What was the third spelling?
So they messed up on this one, but it was a Burgar. So burger, and burger, but with an AR.
Oh, burger.
Yeah.
I see.
So, but a few years later, the New York police continued their search. That's when they found her skeletal remains on the Rockefeller estate. So he murdered her and just left her there. Like,
what is his obsession with burger?
I don't know. I don't know where he came up with that name.
Not to mention, how did he not get caught faster if he doesn't change his alias that much?
All I can think is when he was on the run and he's like at this diner and was like, I gotta come up with a new name. John. John's a good solid name. It's a very good, what am I? Burger. Like, just the waitress, here's your burger. That's it.
And then he just it's like making your password, except it's an E instead of an O.
Yeah. Now, hold on. I gotta come up with. When he got the other job, he was like, I gotta come up with a better spelling. Like,
I gotta come up with a better name. Burger. Aha!
Now I gotta do another one. Burgar.
It's like cigar.
In 1978, the same year as his appearance on The Dating Game, the LA Times hired Alcala as a typesetter. Not long after being hired on, he was interviewed by the Hillside Strangler Task Force, which will be another future episode, so I'm not going to give any spoilers other than he was ruled out. So he's not the Hillside Strangler.
Got it. He was just somebody else.
Yeah.
He was just another strangler.
However, he was arrested for trying to sell pot to a 14-year-old and served a brief sentence for possession of marijuana. I love that he sold weed to a kid and got like a brief sentence. Like, they're just like, you know what? He's a child molester and he's assaulted a bunch of girls, but you know what? He's selling them pot this time. Like,
he's getting better.
Yeah, it's better now.
He's turning his life around.
I still don't like that he's on drugs, but maybe the weeds mellowed him out. Like, during this time, both before and after serving time for weed, Alcala had began posing as a professional fashion photographer. He would approach hundreds of young men and women and kids and convince them to have photo shoots for his portfolio. Alcala wasn't shy about this activity. He shared the information and photographs with his co-workers at the LA Times. One of his co-workers stated later, quote, I thought it was weird, but I was young. I didn't know anything. When I asked why he took the photos, he said their moms asked him to. I remember the girls were naked.
Oh.
End quote. A woman who was photographed by Alcala. Photographed.
Wait, just stand still. I need to put these popsicles together.
It's like the woodpecker from Flintstones.
Photographed.
Yeah, so she was photographed by Alcala in 1979. You were waiting for it. Quote, he said that he was a professional, so in my mind, I was a model for him. She remembered that the portfolio included spread after spread of naked teenage boys. Most of the photos were sexually explicit. During one of these photo shoots in 1979, Alcala knocked out 15-year-old Monique Hoyt and raped her, then revived her and beat her unconscious again, raped her. Eventually, she managed to escape and get away from him.
My God, that was just unnecessary.
So
Jesus.
this was actually an MO of his because he actually would do this to pretty well all of his victims. He would strangle them till they're unconscious, then revive them, rape them, beat them, strangle them again, and do this as many times as he wanted.
Oh my God.
So many suspect that the rejection of Cheryl Bradshaw from the dating game may have exacerbated his crimes. Pat Brown, who's a criminal profiler, noted that Alcala killed at least 3 women after the dating game. Quote, "One wonders what that did to his mind. That's not something he could take too well. Serial killers don't understand rejection. They think that something is wrong with that girl. She played me. She played hard to get." End quote. So I could just keep listing some of the victims and so on, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm going to highlight the main victims that are going to be his undoing, because...
You know what kind of disturbs me is the woman in the dating game there. She was a teacher. That almost feels like there was even an even further plan or motivation there. Motives, that's the word.
Yeah. So Robin Sanso was a 12-year-old girl from Huntington Beach, California. She and her friend were approached by a stranger who asked to take pictures of them on June 20th, 1979. Both declined, and Sanso heads off to ballet class on her yellow Schwinn bike. But she never makes it. Her body is later found in the foothills of Los Angeles on July 2nd, 1979. Kinda. So, a park ranger who had witnessed the conversation between the girls and the stranger had gone home instead of reporting this, and then decided a couple days later that she wanted to go and check up on the area. When she got there, she did find Robin's body in the foothills of Los Angeles. But instead of reporting this to the police, she just went home. She's a park ranger who just went home.
She didn't report finding the body either?
No. So it wasn't until another park ranger came across the body by complete luck that her body's discovery was reported. Took 12 days. When it could have just been 2.
Yeah, what the fuck? What's the fuck's wrong with... What was that park ranger's name?
They don't have it.
Fuck you, park ranger!
So, Robin's friend tells the police about the stranger, and detectives circulate a sketch based off of the information she's given. And it immediately comes to the attention of Rodney Alcala's parole officer. So basically, they get this sketch, and the parole officer, because he's a member of, he has to keep an eye out, looks at this and goes, "This is freaking Rodney." They get a warrant to search the residence of Anna Gutierrez, so Rodney's mother, and they find a rental receipt for a storage locker in Seattle. Inside the locker, they find Robin Sanso's earrings. So, Alcala was arrested and held without bail. His trial began in 1980. He represented himself. So, one thing about Alcala is that his IQ is debated. It's never debated that it's low. His IQ is either 135, which is near genius, but a lot of other reports come up that it's closer to 160, 170, which is genius. So he thinks he's smart enough to get away with, to just do this on his own.
He definitely is a narcissist, for sure. Jesus.
So, unsurprisingly, him representing himself leads to him being convicted and sentenced to death. However, this conviction is overturned by the California Supreme Court in 1984 because the jurors were improperly informed of his previous sex crimes, and and Alcala tried to make a motion with his lawyers, now he has lawyers, that the sex crimes are not to be linked to this crime, which I disagree. He's a child molester and a repeat assaulter of children, and this is a child who went missing and was murdered and was sexually assaulted, because the body did come back sexually assaulted. Kind of fits.
Yeah, you can't... No, that's just signs that this is a repeat.
Yeah. But, so this technicality of the law gets his conviction overturned. In 1986, Alcala is still representing himself like the genius he is, so he gets rid of his lawyers that helped him appeal.
He clearly believes that he needs this punishment, apparently.
Yes. So, he represents himself again, and this trial is nearly identical to the first one, except for the omission of his prior crimes, and he is convicted and sentenced to death again. So, 1994, Rodney writes and releases a self-published book titled You the Jury, in which he proclaims his innocence in murdering Robin Samso and offers a different suspect. Who that suspect is, I don't know. I didn't read the book. But he also tried to sue the California penal system for a slip and fall incident and for not providing him with a low-fat diet. He also openly contests and complains about a state law that allows for police to swab his mouth for DNA in order to try and link further crimes through DNA evidence.
How did this guy get so many victims without being caught? Or is it just that he kept getting caught and they kept letting him go?
I have no idea.
Because he does not sound as bright as you made him out to be.
I know, it's crazy, eh? So, in 2001, a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals heard his case and nullified the conviction yet again. So his conviction is overturned again. In 2001.
What?
Yeah. This
started in the 60s, 70s?
He was convicted the first time in 1980s. And then it was like 4 years later. 4 years later, it's overturned. 2 years later, he's back in, sentenced to death.
No, I meant this whole story.
Oh, this whole story started in 1943, but
yeah.
His murder, his victim started in 1968. So, this was in part because of a witness, was not allowed to support Alcala's contention that the park ranger who found Samso's body had been, and this is exactly how Alcala put it in there, hypnotized by the police investigators. His argument is that he has a witness who watched the police hypnotize the park ranger who found the body.
They pushed back trials for this?
And this gets his conviction overturned. What? What?
Did he hypnotize the fucking court?
He got the fucking... You are getting sleepy. So...
Here, let me show you. Watch the wrist... Watch the pocket watch.
So now, we're getting geared up for a third trial. And we're in 2003. Orange County investigators learn that Alcala's DNA... that was tested through state law despite his constant objections and complaints, has been matched to semen found at a rape murder scene of 2 women in LA. Another DNA match is made in 2004 for a previous cold case and led to the indictment of Alcala on 4 new murders. Jill Barcombe, an 18-year-old New York runaway found in an LA ravine, rolled up like a ball, is what the quote it says, in 1977. So this body's found in 1977. She was originally thought to be a victim of the Hillside Strangler. Her body was found just down the street from Marlon Brando's house, and the police interviewed Brando, but unfortunately he did not see anything that could help them. I just love that there's so many links in this.
I almost feel like Marlon Brando was just written into the report so that way they could put him into the movie adaptation.
This makes me think of the Sam Shepard thing where that Ohio quarterback just showed up randomly and the police like, hey, come on in!
That was so stupid! baseball guy.
So, one of the other victims, Georgia Wickstead, was 27, and she was bludgeoned to death in her Malibu apartment in 1977. So these are both in 77. 31-year-old Charlotte Lamb was raped, strangled, and left in a laundry room of an El Segundo apartment complex in 1978. So that would have been the same year as The Dating Game. But I just love that she was raped and strangled. Not love, but like, how did he get away with this in a laundry room in an apartment complex? Like, those are fucking busy. Like,
yeah, I can't follow that one unless it was one of those shady ones that people don't really know is there.
Yeah. Finally, 21-year-old Jill Paranto was murdered in her Burbank apartment in 1979. This guy, he manages to convince them to let him into their apartments. It seems like that 23-year-old was killed in her apartment. Hover was killed on her own property and then buried there. This girl's killed in her apartment. The 27-year-old was murdered in her apartment. Like,
maybe it's like the host, one of the hosts of The Dating Game. She said she was just looking for attractive men and whatnot. Maybe he appeared like a really attractive guy, and
yeah, and he comes off a little charismatic, I guess, because he did convince all these people to let him take pictures of their kids.
Yeah,
and women. Like,
he also weren't you saying that was one of those like underlying abilities that came with his psychosis and stuff like that?
Yeah, because you start to, like, with that or something, you start to be able to realize what the behaviors that you're missing are, kind of thing.
Yeah, isn't that like sociopathy?
Kind of, and this is like a type of psychopathy. That's what it's called. There's another thing. It's a type of psychopathy. It's like psychopathy type 1 or something like that. That's all the bodies of the women had been found, and this is a quote from the thing, posed in carefully chosen positions, like a photographer would do when they're going to take pictures. A pair of earrings in Alcala's locker in Seattle had Lamb's DNA on them as well. So that really fucks you up. In 2003, prosecutors filed for Samso's case to be joined with other victims. Alcala had attorneys this time again who tried in vain to fight this. They explained, quote, "If you're a juror and you hear one murder case, you may be able to have reasonable doubt. But it's very hard to say you have reasonable doubt on all 5 murders, especially if 4 of the 5 aren't alleged by eyewitnesses," which is what Samso's is, "but proven by DNA matches," end quote. I love that
people didn't see it, even though DNA proves it.
No, their argument is, well, we don't want them all to be together because it's hard to fight that. Especially when it's hard to fight all of them and give reasonable doubt when, 4 of them have DNA matches that prove it. There's just too much evidence.
Hey, this isn't fair. We could lose this. Could we change it?
Listen, this isn't fair. There's just too much evidence in the other cases, and it just really resembles this other case, and it just looks bad.
Yeah. We want our client to win. So do you think you could change it so we win?
I want you to think these attorneys went to law school for this.
I bet you anything it was the last 2 attorneys who just came in their first day and like, yeah, you're doing this guy's case, and then everybody at the office like,
you gave them that case.
Oh, they're never gonna go through. Oh, we can't really do this because it's hard.
So, of course, in 2006, so they had filed this in 2003, but then by the 2006, they have all of these victims. The California Supreme Court ruled in favor of the prosecution and merged all the cases together. So now he's going to face 5 murder cases in one trial. His trial began in February of 2010. This is really recent for cases like Robin Samso was murdered in 1979.
Yeah, that's quite a fair distance away.
31 years. So, for the third trial, Alcala elected to represent himself. Again.
How old is he by this point? Like 60s?
Yeah. But, because this totally is worked out in the past. Your lawyers get you off of this, and then, meanwhile, you just... All right, guys, you did a good job. Now I got this from here.
He wants to be sentenced to death. I can't see it any other way. He's just like, no. I can't see someone being that narcissistic that they go to the point that they're like, no, I want to die. Let's see how well this goes.
So, he took to the stand in his own defense. He put himself on the stand. And for 5 hours played the roles of both interrogator and witness.
Mr. Rodney Alcala, however
It's funny
your last name
because
is.
asking himself questions, addressing to himself as Mr. Alcala in a deeper than normal voice. I just picture him. So,
Mr. Alkaline Battery.
Yeah.
If that's your real name? This lawyer is not getting my name right. This is a false. This is a kangaroo court.
He's your lawyer. He's you.
What?
He's in your defense.
Oh my God, you're crying.
This is the questioning. I just picture him. I object to what he just. I object to this questioning. It's your questioning. I just picture the judge being like, "What is happening here?"
It in my head, I see that Pixar short with the old man who plays chess.
Yeah.
And he goes back and forth, but after a while they stop showing the part where he goes back and forth as if he's the two characters. That's what I imagine. It's him going back and forth, and then eventually they just stop.
I just picture him jumping over the thing. Mr. Alcala. Yes, sir.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Well, I think... Did you murder these people? No, I did not. That seems straightforward to me.
But he did this for 5 hours. Imagine being the juror. Imagine being on the jury of this. I literally would be sitting there being like, what is happening here? Why are we allowing this?
Stand-up comedians can't even need to write an hour-long show. How did he get away with 5?
5 hours. So, during this bizarre self-questioning and answering session, he told jurors, often in a rambling monotone, that he was at Knott's Berry Farm applying for a job as a photographer at the time of Samso's kidnapping. He showed the jury a portion of his 1978 appearance on The Dating Game in an attempt to prove that the earrings found at the saddle locker were his, not Samso's. He has long hair. We watched that video. I've watched that video several times. You cannot see his fucking ears. He literally put this up there. Was this just... He does this 5-hour thing and then goes, and this is me on The Dating Game.
Mr. Alcala, is this you on The Dating Game?
Yes, it is. And how did you feel about Miss Bradshaw? Well, I thought she was very attractive and she was a very nice person, but then she didn't go out with me.
So I considered murdering... no further questions, Your Honor. Thomas!
Oh, wow.
How did he stay alive so long and kill so many people?
I'm just so blown away by it. Like, he got up there
5 hours!
Like, so, about the earrings, Jed Mills, who was bachelor number 2, told the reporter that the earrings were not yet socially acceptable for men in 1978. Quote, I had never seen a man with earrings in his ear. He said, I would have noticed them on him. I don't know, that fucking hair was out there, man. Like,
like, if you've seen Ninja Sex Party, that's the hair he had. Like, Danny Sexbang.
Straight up. Like,
no, it wasn't straight. It's really curly.
5 hours of this. Like,
5 hours!
Like, I just picture him in his jail cell, literally practicing this whole thing over and over. Like, and then one of the
like it's back and forth going over the whole thing with his client, like a defender.
No,
does.
if you say that, you will be like, it will just get you. Like,
let me do all the talking, okay?
Just trust me.
Mr. Alcala, is this you on the dating game? And he does a slightly deeper voice.
That refers to... Man.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, folks. That whole this is better than the Danny DeVito hair dude. Like, this is absurd.
This is just insane.
Ow.
I want you to think, you've never heard of this before.
No! Absolutely not. And I'm surprised there isn't more people making fun of this.
Yeah.
I guess it's because he was a serial killer.
What I love too is that he's more famous for the fact that he's on the dating game, and that's why he's called the dating game killer. But this is fucking nuts. Like, I would love the fact that he's fucking doing this. Like,
wait, you ever seen Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
You know that one episode where she puts the meeting too long, so people have to they can't vote because the meeting closes or whatnot. Like, that's what he's done. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Basically doing 5 hours.
So, out of all this, Alcala made no significant attempt to dispute the other 4 charges. So other than to assert that he could not remember killing any of the women. I want to go back to the 5 hours. He's just disputing this Robin girl's death. And, like, there's DNA evidence that's matching you to these other 4, so you're basically on trial for all 5 of these. If you're convicted, even if you didn't kill this girl, there's 4 other fucking people that you killed.
It was 5 hours. He had 5 victims, and he chose to work on 1.
Yeah. Could you imagine he has something for the entire thing, and then it's just like he's got to the 5 hours, the judge is just like, that's enough. We've had it. Like, I think
I didn't even get to the other cases, Your Honor. Did you murder those other women? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. Mr. Alcala, do you remember killing these people? No, I don't remember it at all. Actually, these last 5 hours, it just got mine a blur. I don't remember a lot of things now.
Like, I don't even know what you said to me, Mr. Lawyer, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Alcala.
Yeah. So
may I remind you, you are under oath.
May I remind you, you're under oath. Right now, you're the witness. Shit.
Okay, this is gonna go on forever. Just keep going.
As part of his closing argument, he played Arlo Guthrie's song "Alice's Restaurant," in which the protagonist tells a psychiatrist he wants to kill. After less than 2 days of deliberation, It took 2 fucking days for them to deliberate this.
It took them 2 days to process what they just watched. What the fuck is? It's a murder investigation. Oh shit!
They go in there, and the one guy's just like, "That was really entertaining. It was a really good show. We're on a jury. What? That guy is obviously fucking nuts."
And it took them 2 days to figure it out.
Yeah. So, 2 days of deliberation.
And his closing argument is he just played a song?
Yeah, in which the protagonist tells the psychiatrist he wants to kill. You played a song about a guy telling his psychiatrist, I want to kill. After 5 hours of deliberation with yourself. Sorry, 5 hours of questioning yourself. Like,
that's like fucking that's like going for 3 hours trying to convince people you're not high on drugs and then playing your favorite song, cause I got high, cause I got high, cause I got high.
So, after less than 2 days of deliberation, the jury convicted him on all 5 counts of first-degree murder. A surprise witness was called during the penalty phase of the trial.
It was Mr. Rodney Alcala.
I would love that.
He runs to the back of the courtroom and goes through the doors and slaps them open.
Because in sentencing, you have to have like mitigating factors for like to get out of the death penalty. So like you've been convicted, so now you're trying to get mercy from the court. And I just picture him. I call myself. Please don't kill me. I really don't want to die. Mr. Alcala, control yourself. No lawyer.
Mr. Alcala, get your client under control. Mr. Alcala, yes, Mr. Alcala. Please put yourself under control.
He's playing the judge.
Order, give him a gavel.
Yeah. How did he get that? I don't know. I was so distracted.
And now he's escaped the room. How did no one see this?
He's probably in New York again. Look for John Berger.
With an eye. This should not be as funny as it is.
It's so sad because they all died.
Yeah, I know. He killed so many people, but just... It's hard, like...
I feel bad for the victims.
Yeah.
But I also am like, how are you convinced by this man? Like
it is... It's one of those things where, like, you... Like... Hitler was a terrible fucking guy. He was an absolute monster. But you can't help but laugh at some of the kooky, cartoonish things he did during World War II. Like, invest in black magic.
Yeah. Search for the Holy Grail.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, no matter how bad of a thing they did, you can't help but laugh at how stupid they are.
So, this kind of goes back to one of the podcasts I listened to, but... It's not the actual acts that we're laughing at.
Yeah.
It's all the shit around it that makes it entertaining. Like
it's the reason we talk about this shit. Yeah. Like I just wanted to be upfront because we were laughing very hard at this, but it's like it is a really serious issue. It's just so absurd.
And again, we're mocking him.
Yeah.
Like he's a piece of shit. What else can we fucking do? Like,
is he dead yet?
No.
Please tell me. No, he's
not at this point.
Did he go through another fucking trial?
The surprise witness at the penalty phase was Tally Shapiro, the 8-year-old that he almost killed.
What?
Fully grown. That happened in 1968, and it is now 2010. Think about that. She is like, she's had kids. Like... But she was the first known victim. She was the surprise witness for the penalty phase. So if there's any way that you can convince a jury to not kill you, and then that girl comes up and says, when I was 8 years old, this is what he did to me, and give the full account, you fucked.
Yeah.
So... Richard Rappaport, which I find is amazing for a psychiatrist name.
Rappaport?
Rappaport.
It's got a nice ring to it, actually.
Yeah.
It rolls off the tongue.
So, he was paid by Alcala and was the defense's only witness, testified that he had borderline personality disorder, and explains that Alcala's claims that he has no memories of committing the murders can be put on that. Which, it can, but it can't. Borderline personality disorder has a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of things that he doesn't have. And it's a personality thing, not a reality thing.
I feel like he might have gotten it mixed up with DID, dissociative identity disorder, because that one is the one associated with blackouts.
Yeah.
Which would make so much more sense as a plea. But he chose the borderline, where it's like, no, you borderline, you're kind of a selfish person.
Yeah.
A little bit. You're self-centered. That's about it.
So, the prosecutor argued that Alcala was a sexual predator who, quote, knew what he was doing was wrong and didn't care, end quote. In March 2010, Alcala was sentenced to death for the third time. In March of 2010, the Huntington Beach, California, and New York police departments released 120 of Alcala's photographs and sought public's help in identifying them. They're hoping that if anybody could identify the women and children in the photographs, it could be used to
those photographs.
It could be used to help get additional victims and kind of bring closure. Approximately 900 additional photos could not be made public due to how sexually explicit they were.
Jesus.
So they released 120 of 900, and that's their estimation of how many more photos there are. In the first few weeks, police reported approximately 21 women had come forward to identify themselves in these photos. And at least 6 families said that they believed they recognized loved ones who had disappeared years ago and were never found. None of the photos were unequivocally connected to a missing person case or an unsolved murder until 2013, when a family member recognized the photo of Christine Thornton, who was 28, whose body was found in Wyoming in 1982. There's actually a whole thing about this. There was a whole article on it, but I'll just kind of summarize because it goes through how her sister was the one who was just browsing through these photos that her friend sent her to be like, this is really interesting. It's a really interesting case. And when she came across it, she came across Christine, who was pregnant at the time, wearing a crop top, and she knew that was her sister. When they asked Alcala about this, he did say that this was my area. So it was part of his hunting ground. So it's very possible that this woman... At this point, I assume he's just kind of given in. Yeah, he's kind of led up to it. As of September 2019, 109 of the original photos remain posted online, and police continue to solicit the public's help for further identification. After his 2010 conviction, New York authorities announced that they would no longer pursue Alcala because of the status of a convict awaiting execution. So, nevertheless, in January 2011, a Manhattan grand jury indicted him for the murder of Cornelia Crilly, the flight attendant, and Ellen Hover, the Ciro's heiress, in 1971 and 1977, respectively. In June 2012, he was extradited to New York, where he initially entered a not guilty plea for both counts. Here's my thing.
Please not.
Was he just about to go? Did he get there and be like, you know what? I bet you I could represent myself and get out of this. But in December of 2012, he changed both pleas to guilty, citing a desire to return to California to pursue appeals on his death penalty conviction. On January 7, 2013, a Manhattan judge sentenced Alcala to an additional 25 years to life, and the death penalty has not been an option in New York since 2007. So, what I love about this is he decides he's just going to change his plea, and cites that it's because he wants to go back and fight his death penalty thing. So he's sentenced to life in prison anyways. Yeah. No matter what. And by this point, he's in his 70s. You don't have long left.
Did he just, like, try to prolong this as long as he could so he could get away from the death penalty, and that was it? Like,
maybe. Washington also sought after him. In 2010, the Seattle police named Alcala a person of interest in the unsolved murders of Antoinette Whittaker, 13, from July 1977.
That would be Whittaker.
Probably, maybe.
Did you say Whittaker?
Whittaker, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be Whittaker.
Yeah. Joyce Gaunt, 17, in February of 1978. Alcala rented a Seattle area storage locker, which we discussed, and belongings to the two victims of his California victims were found in 1979. Other cases were reported targeted for reinvestigation in California, New York, New Hampshire, and Arizona. In San Francisco, in March of 2011, investigators in Marin County, California, which is north of San Francisco, announced that they were confident Alcala was responsible for the murder of a 19-year-old Pamela Jean Lamston in 1977 murder. She disappeared on a trip to the Fisherman's Wharf, and she was going to meet a man who offered to take photographs of her. Her battered and naked body was subsequently found in Marin County near a hiking trail. There was no fingerprints or usable DNA. Charges are unlikely to be filed, but they believe there's enough evidence here to convince, like, a jury that Alcala committed the crime.
Yeah.
Which, it does fit his MO. She's battered, naked, probably strangled. She's ditched in, like, a hiking trail, so, like, a mountainous area. And she was going to meet a man who was going to take photographs of her during his time of taking photographs. So, Wyoming, they did try to seek him out to bring him in for the Christine Ruth Thornton case, the one that we talked about. A relative recognized the subject of Alcala's photos, so on. Her body was found in Sweetwater County, Wyoming in 1982, but it was not identified until 2015 when DNA supplied by Thornton's relatives matched tissue samples for her remains. Alcala admitted to taking the photo, but not killing the woman, who was approximately 6 months pregnant at the time of her death. Thornton was the first murder victim linked to Alcala's photos made public in 2010. The 73-year-old Alcala was reported to be too ill to make the journey from California to Wyoming to stand trial for new charges. And he currently sits in California State Prison in Cochrane.
So he's still alive.
He's still alive, waiting the death penalty. I'll bring up a photo of him for you.
Jesus, that is one hell of a fucking journey. Well, you don't need to show me a photo of him.
That's him now.
Oh. Wow, he looks like the leader of a Mexican drug cartel.
Mm-hmm. Now you can see why his first name was Rodrigo.
Yeah, like in those early pictures without the mustache, he looks very white.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But, yeah, so that's Robert Alcala.
Jesus, that was one hell of a journey. I was not expecting that to go, like... So, like, I didn't realize it was still a thing today.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know anything about this before this episode, but, like, I fucking 5 hours.
5 hours of him crossing, like, 5 hours of him examining himself. I just picture him doing this, and then it's time for the prosecutor to talk to him, and the prosecutor's like, I have no further questions.
The prosecutor says something, and he's like, objection from the witness stand.
He hops over the barrier. Objection!
Yeah.
On what grounds?
I'll allow it. No, I will not.
Give me back that gavel. Like,
God. Yo. Jeez,
5 hours.
I have a headache right now. This is... Oh, that was just ridiculous. I honestly, I think I'm gonna call it because I'm running out of breath here.
Yeah, I'm like that was really entertaining. Like, and I did the research and all this, and it was just so good. Like,
yeah. Oh my God, that was insane. Okay, well, That was our episode, folks. As always, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BA Chaos Jar. You can also follow us at Facebook on Chaos Jar Podcast, which is also the name of our YouTube channel. You can follow me and ask me questions at I'm Glad You Asked _ Plus, if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/chaosjar, throw in a few bucks, and become an executive producer and we'll shout out your name. All right, all that in the show notes and more. That's our show, folks. Have a good night.